We riding, sliding across the globe with beats so smooth where everything flows. Let's take to the air, got an AI compass. Funk it up, every step we take it makes us whole. Oh yeah. Passport stamp.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 1 of the AI Compass podcast. My name is Jason Elkins, and I'm here with Jason Halberstadt. We're going to spend about 30 minutes kind of boiling down some really cool stuff involving AI and how we use that in the travel industry. Jason, so happy to see you again.
Likewise, Jason. Nice to be here.
So tell our listeners, what are we going to be covering today?
We're going to be covering the amazing new world of AI agents. I mean, there's been a lot of buzz in the news and everything about AI agents. I think there's a lot of confusion about, what they exactly are and how they can help travel companies to, automate processes, communications. And so, we're going to dive deep into this brave new world.
Very cool. And as we do that, Jason, I'm going to be trying to ask those questions. Any of those questions that pop into my head that I'm sure our listeners might be wondering as well. And let's give them a little teaser. What's by the end of this conversation, what are we going to be, what are we going to be talking about? What are we going, why should somebody stick around and listen to this call?
Well, hopefully by the end, we'll kind of talk through what the technology is going to look like, coming up in the next 6 months, year and a half, and give you, hopefully some guidelines and a bit of a compass, hence the name of the podcast, of how to lead your company in the direction where it's going to be positioned well to thrive in this new world.
Very, very cool. So let's jump right in. What is AI agents, chatbots? Where do we go with this conversation? Where do we start?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people nowadays think of AI primarily being ChatGPT or Gemini, where they go to a web page, they type in what they want, and then it gives back, increasingly better answers as the technology gets better. But we're going to talk about what happens when you take it further. Beyond AI just giving you a response and giving you, say an email, how to write an email. We're going to talk about how you integrate it into your company, in the processes of your company, with the software of your company, and then how that will enable your AI to more than just generate a document for you, but it will actually enable you the AI will actually be able to do things. Yeah, it will.
So what I envision there is, because I use ChatGPT and some of those tools quite a bit. And I'll go in and, okay, help me write a blog post. Help me come up with ideas for titles for podcasts or whatever, right? But when I stop typing, it stops working. It's just kind of a put in, I get something back out. What I hear you saying or kind of touching on is, how do we let this AI stuff do stuff while we're, out on the beach or we're sleeping or whatever, and it's actually taking care of stuff. Is that kind of where we're going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely it. Yeah. And so I guess we can like run through a scenario, some examples, common examples of things that would happen in a travel company now. And so say you have somebody come to your website and you have a chatbot on your website that can interact with your customers and say, help them to plan their trip. Yeah. And so essentially in that scenario, you kind of have created almost like your own ChatGPT for your own company, and so the AI can pop up and start asking questions, start interviewing the user, similar to how a human travel agent would interview, where they want to go, who they're traveling with, what they want to get out of their trip, etc. And then your chatbot can actually, in many cases, access other systems. For example, access all the information that's on your website. so all of your trips, and say it can help match this person that that wants to take a trip with a specific trip on your website. And then it'll ask for, say, their email, contact information, and then it will send that information to the sales team at your company. And so in that example, we've actually got an AI that's kind of on 24 hours, waiting for somebody to initiate the conversation with it, and it's then able to understand what the person needs. It's kind of gets a context of what the person needs, as the context of what your company can do, what products you have, and it then can help the person you know make progress on planning their trip. And then when it sends the email to your sales team or inserts it into your CRM system, then it's actually doing something. So we've got there kind of a basic AI agent where it's independent, it's on all the time. It kind of makes decisions by itself based upon what the user wants. And then it does something. It collects the email and it sends you the email to your sales staff.
So a few questions.
Yeah. Sure.
One thing is, I recognize that chat bots, or what, I'm not even sure it's the right terminology. You can help us with that. But I remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, you could go on a website, something maybe would pop up and it would ask you some questions and you would give it some information and it would ask some other questions. And frankly, most of them were horrible.
Yeah.
And someone was explaining to me, well, that's because they're really a trained response thing where the programmer try and guess what people might say and get as close to it as possible. And it might ask you like, oh, I remember in real estate was an example. It's like, oh, what area do you want to live in? And you'd say anywhere except for Tolleson. And the response would come back and say, oh yeah, Tolleson is a wonderful area. That type of thing.
Yeah.
And so anybody that's listening to this, especially tour operators, they've been around for a while, maybe closer to my age, and they're like, yeah, I've seen those things before. Those are horrible. That's embarrassing. I would never, ever want my customers to deal with that. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's different about those compared to the agents that we're using now.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think those are very analogous to like the phone trees that we get. Press 1 for customer service, press 2.
All right, so those change. So please make sure you listen to every item. Yes.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Oh, they still exist. But that's a really, really good example of a non-agentic system that is made to almost seem agentic, because they're kind of defining what the conversation is going to be about at the beginning, and then giving you options of different things to do. So there's there's not really any thinking or any autonomy that's going on. It's just a strict algorithm. If they ask this, then do that. If they ask this other thing, then do this other thing. And so, that we can qualify that on the scale of agentic as barely being agentic whatsoever, because it's really not. So it's not making decisions. It's not independent necessarily in any way. It's just presenting options to the user. Yeah. And so, and then when we go further on the scale of being, what is an agent, being agentic? Yeah. So we start off at the very basic, like the old style telephone menus. Yeah. And the old style, chats as well. And then, we go up to the next level of like the chatbot situation we were talking about, where it thinks for itself. That is really, I guess, kind of an assistant level, where it's able to be a thinking assistant to you, some semi-autonomous, and could actually do things for you. And then kind of the next level of agentic is when an AI can actually coordinate and orchestrate multiple things at once. For example, if somebody wrote in that they want to cancel their trip, it would go to the script of what you're supposed to do for a cancellation and follow the script. Maybe you have to go into your booking system, or the AI would have to go into your booking system now, mark this as a canceled trip, then inform the correct people. And so, yeah, at that point, yeah, you have an AI that is, yeah, it's not only agentic itself, but it's also doing different things. It's coordinating with other systems.
So it sounds like what I hear you saying is one level, maybe the level right below that one is you come to the website and that agent pretty much knows everything on the website and is able to kind of answer questions based on what's on the website. And they're kind of reading you the website, helping you narrow it down, whatever. And then the level that you were just mentioning is the more like, okay, I know everything on the website. And if you want to book a trip, I know the next steps to that as well. And I can actually check space and I can come back and say, yes, we actually have space available on this departure. And is that right? Am I hearing
Yeah,
that right?
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's
And the
exactly.
other thing I really want to ask you about, because I know the word script sometimes can trigger people. So you said that agent, if somebody wants to cancel, the agent knows what the script is. But when I hear you say script and then you described it, it's more of a procedure as opposed to a script. Because when I hear the word
Yeah.
script, I think of thank you so much for contacting us today. And it's very scripted. But what you're really saying is a script in a sense of this is what you do. You need to go check the terms and conditions, apply them, and actually notify the vendor and do all these different things. So by script, you kind of mean a procedure, right?
Yeah, yeah, policies and procedures, yeah, and processes that, yeah, they're not necessarily a word by word script. You could give it examples, say, so if somebody wants to make a cancellation, then state our cancellation policy. And here it is.
You know what came up though when you were describing that is I was imagining somebody, because some of our listeners have teams that work closely together, and I used to work in a team that was closely together where if you had a question, you looked over your shoulder and you asked the person behind you. And I'm imagining someone sitting there and they get a message or maybe a call and somebody says, "Hey, we need to cancel my trip." And if it's a newer person, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not sure. Okay, hold on. I need to talk to my boss." They don't really have much of a script, if you want to call it that. And they put the person on hold. They say, "Hey, this is so-and-so. They're supposed to be leaving in 3 days and they're calling to cancel their trip. And what do we do?" And their colleague's like, "Well, I think we have to do this. I think we need to do that." Well, the boss just stepped away from the desk, so we're not really sure. So they get back on the phone and say, "You know what? I'm not sure. I got to check with my boss. I'm not sure what we got to do. And can I call you back in an hour?" And so let's compare and contrast that, which I think anybody listening
Yeah.
to this can relate to, and what you're talking about having an agent that can actually do that.
Yeah, yeah, really, actually, AI agents, you actually train them in a way that's almost similar to training a human, you know? You need to give them training documents. So here's our standard operating procedures, and, here's what we do if there's a cancellation. The big difference is that people sometimes forget. People don't read them.
Because I know we've got employees working on our teams. You say, "Here's our standard operating procedures. Make sure you read that in the first week you're here," right? Okay, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, yeah. First problem, they don't read them. Second problem, they don't remember them. Then, yeah, then that's, yeah, the AI very rarely, yeah, forgets. It is possible. There's the famous hallucinations out there. It's not, 100%, but it is probably 99% these days, especially, if you're
Let's talk
working
about, I think we need
with
to
them.
touch on hallucination. When you say that, some of our listeners aren't sure what you just said.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so hallucinations, like, especially in the early days when ChatGPT just came out, um, you could ask it to, I don't know, write, uh, yeah, a blog post for my website, and sometimes it would say, make up things, or essentially, really what it does is it kind of tells you what you want to hear rather than something that is actually accurate and precise. And so, and then they call that a hallucination. Hallucination, they just, it makes up something. And so, yeah, that was much more common, much more of a problem in the early days of AI, and it's continually improving. And then actually, the way to take kind of a quantum leap and to eliminate hallucinations is to make sure that the AI is relying on your source of knowledge, your documents that you upload, your database, rather than having to go to the large language model, where it's going to all the information on the internet and trying to come up with the answer that you want to hear. Um, and so, yeah, hallucinations, although not completely eliminated, they're greatly reduced now, to say, versus a year or two ago.
Well, and I suspect that, maybe I don't want to say the typical listener, but it's someone like myself. When I first got started, you're just putting in stuff. You don't really know how to avoid hallucinations. You don't know how to tell the system, please don't make stuff up.
Yeah.
So anybody that first sat down when ChatGPT came out and started typing stuff in, it was like, oh, this is fun. This is pretty cool. But it didn't take long before you got some weird kind of response. And you're like, well, okay, I know that's not right. So
Yeah.
now I question it and I doubt it, or they've seen social media posts or stuff that are just ridiculous. So people might be walking around with this idea, you can't really trust it. But what I hear you saying is by really training it, especially on your content, because if you as a tour operator feel like, yeah, my website is good, the information on my website is good, and I know that the internet as a whole has a lot of crummy information, but if I can restrict the responses to the information I have on my website to some certain level, then I've got some sense of control over what my chatbot's going to say. So if I do bicycle tours in Italy, I don't have to hopefully worry too much about my chatbot saying, oh, January is a wonderful time to go bicycle riding in northern Italy, right? Because there's nowhere on my website does it say that. It might be somewhere else on the internet. Is that kind of what you're saying when you're talking about kind of
In a way,
hitting?
yeah. If you say I want to go bicycling in northern Italy in January, yeah, it may say it's a great time because it's kind of giving you what you want.
Huh?
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. And really, all the key to this is actually there's one super important word whenever, even when you're working in ChatGPT or whatever with AI, context. Yeah. So let's go back to the scenario where you have a new sales person on your staff and you need to train them. When they start day one, they don't have the context to understand what you sell, all your policies and procedures, your standard operating procedures, which they don't read anyway. So AI is very much the same. It's like a new employee every time you open up a new conversation in ChatGPT. You have to get it context. You have to say, I am a salesperson or act as a salesperson for this company. Use my catalog of products to offer to the person. Here are my standard operating procedures. Here's the way that you should initiate the conversation. And so when you give it all this information, the right context, then just like the new employee, when after they had the context, they had their training, they can understand how to do their job correctly. Yeah. And then you have people making up many fewer things that you don't really know about if you give the AI the context that it's needed.
Well, so then the other thing is, I remember when I worked at a close space with my team, if I overheard someone on my team having a conversation with a client and I realized they were saying, yes, January is a great time to go to northern Italy to go bicycle riding, there was an opportunity for me to give them some coaching after the call, and we could discuss that, and I could educate them a little bit more about what's going on in northern Italy in January. I don't know. I've never been there in January, but I'm guessing. Um, and so with the agents that that people are using, when you notice, how do you notice when the agent says something crazy without running into a client 6 months later and they say, yeah, I almost booked a trip with you once, but I was on your website and your agent said I should go to Northern Italy in January. So I went and found someone else to work with. How do you capture those mistakes and then
Mhm.
correct them so they don't keep happening over and over? Because I think anybody that's listening to this that's thinking about it, putting an agent on their website is thinking about those mistakes and it's never going to get better. But the reality is people make mistakes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
unfortunately, you train up a person and then they might leave and go somewhere else. But at least the chatbot, as you train them, they stick around, right?
Yeah.
They don't quit because they're having a family
Yes.
crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly. So also if a person, if you overheard this person made a mistake, you'd usually have, say, a supervisor that's, supervising to make sure, especially if they're new, to make sure they don't make mistakes. And you can do the exact same thing with AI agents. You create an agent that is a supervisor. It's also called like LLM as a judge, who is kind of like a quality control agent. So they can listen in on conversations or can revise the conversations after they're completed, and it can point out any errors that were made, any ways that could make the customer more satisfied. It could say, yeah, you need to offer more personalized options, for example, or you need to ask the customer about their preferences before offering them a, a package so that you can match their needs and desires with what you have. So yeah, we actually have, and actually have had for about a year now, an AI that comes in, analyzes each of the chat conversations, and then gives this full feedback report, like a quality control report, and gives feedback to the AI of how it can improve the next conversation.
So now you take that, and I remember a conversation I had with you in the past where you're like, oh, we can actually have an AI do a secret shopper type of thing. So we can have an AI come into the website, have a conversation with the chatbot or the agent, and then you've got a supervisor that reviews that conversation, and then the secret shopper reviews that conversation. You can tile that together so it can just continuously kind of get better with
Yeah,
limited personal direction. Is that
yeah, yeah. The way we do this is we create yet another AI agent that it has a persona, like an ILEO customer profile. So we say, Betsy from Washington, who likes to quilt flags, wants to go to wherever, and give Betsy a travel goal. Yeah, and then Betsy, the AI virtual Betsy, goes and it interacts with our chatbot that's on the website. And so it's essentially simulating, almost like a video game, or like Sim City. It's simulating hundreds or even thousands of different conversations, and then you have the evaluator, the judge, the quality control AI come in and judge those conversations, and then you give a feedback and say, "Oh, the AI in this conversation with this fake traveler, you could have handled the situation in a better way, and this is the best way to do it." And so that
wow?
guy gives the feedback and gets smarter. So you can simulate, yeah, thousands of conversations before your customers actually interact with the chatbot. Yeah.
You've got some, I presumably, if the either the judge or the secret shopper or anywhere in there come to a kind of like, oh, yeah, we're not really sure how to handle this because it's not in the information that we were given. Then
Yeah.
I can say to maybe someone on the team, the owner of the company, it
Yes.
can say, hey, we realize that people are potentially asking about this product and we don't really understand this product well enough to give
Right.
them a good response. And what that can do to trigger the tour operator, well, maybe that's because the way I've got that product described on the website is flawed, which means if a live customer went to my website, did not engage with my chatbot, they're going to run into the same problem. So now what you've done is you've surfaced a problem in your marketing materials, in your sales materials, or in your operations that you wouldn't have otherwise surfaced until a customer got on the phone and said, "Hey, I'm on your website. I can't find the answer to this question," which I know anybody that's listening to this has had that. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Our dates for that trip are 5 years old. Maybe we should fix that." And now you've got the chatbots not just helping people come to your website, but they're helping you figure out areas of your operation that are lacking. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. That in the agent world, that's called human in the loop.
Mhm.
So it basically, any an issue that it comes across it doesn't know how to handle, can escalate it to owner or the supervisor to human so that they are
So if
advised and can
somebody,
take care of it.
right. So if a tour operator put an agent on their website, even if even if it never engaged with a person, never turned into booking, but was doing all this behind the scenes work, helping you figure out gaps in your system and problems on your website, there's some benefit there, even if it wasn't engaging with clients, right?
Yeah, good point. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, it can.
I mean, obviously, hopefully they're engaging with clients and booking trips.
But yeah, you could uncover issues with your website, with your policies and stuff in during the simulations, and they could be escalated and identify these problems before your customers discover them.
Because I recognize that somebody might be listening thinking, well, I don't have a lot of stuff on my website, or I already know that my website's out of date. I know. So if I hear you, Jason, saying, yeah, the chatbot is great because it's going to use the information on your website, and you're thinking, well, the information on my website is not very good. So I better wait to take any action until my website's better. And then I can go talk to someone about putting an agent on there. And really, what's come out of this conversation is maybe having an agent earlier in the process would help you identify those areas on your website that you need to focus on, even if you never turned it on for the public. You could almost install the chatbot and get the secret shoppers, and they'd come back with a report and basically saying, yep, your pricing is out of date on these 14 trips, and these trips have poor descriptions, and it almost tells you to go and do it, right? And then, I don't
Absolutely.
know, that's
That's a great idea. No, that's a great idea.
yeah.
It's
So,
yeah, and so actually we're coming out soon with a platform where you're able to actually design these different individual agents. And so the point is that yes, you would, if you wanted, say, a website quality control agent
mhm.
where you have them pose as a person and point out all these problems. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We might have to
That's how
come back and do another episode specifically about using these agents to really help you get to the next level. Um,
yeah.
and I know we wanted to touch on, okay, what does, the future, a year from now, what is the tour operator that's fully leveraging the things that are available now? What does that look like? Let's just plant the seed before we wrap up.
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen seems pretty clear is this trend towards becoming more and more agentic, being able to do more and more things autonomously or semi-autonomously. It's it's going to spread into other aspects of the customer journey, of your company's processes and workflows. Really, I think it's going to be a process of kind of automating, kind of step by step, climbing the ladder of automating more process, of being more independent. And so I think it's going to be a process of people creating more and more agents, kind of like our quality control agent. Yeah, we'll say maybe I need a finance agent that analyzes how much I charge for my tours and how much I pay my providers, et cetera. And so I think what you're going to see is people able to build these agents that connect with their internal systems, with their accounting system, with their booking system, et cetera, and are actually able to do more and more roles and assist with more and more processes and eventually be able to do almost all of those processes with less and
What
less
does this
human
mean? What
supervision.
does this mean for the person that's listening to this that has a tour operation business or they're an advisor? Does this mean fewer people on their team, fewer need for people, or does it mean they just get to go do things they really get excited about?
Yeah, I think long term, yeah, it could mean fewer people on your team. But I really encourage people to think about how you can have AI agents kind of take over some more of the busy work or places where people, where AI can do a good job, a better job than people. Yeah. And then, um, then just get started, and start out with
What you don't. Let's
ChatGPT.
let's discuss what happens for these operators that don't, because there's people out there. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm going to resist the AI thing. I don't like it. I saw some bad articles that used AI. Da, 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 da. I'm not going to do it. So what's realistically, and this is not me and you here pitching AI, but what should people
Yeah.
consider that, if they don't
Yeah.
take some sort of action?
Yeah. So what we're hearing, we have one client who called up and said, my competitors are now using AI to create their emails and their itineraries to respond to clients. You know, I want to start doing it too, or I risk uh, not making the sale because
Yeah.
with AI, they're able to respond much quicker, and using kind of these advanced techniques that we're talking about, they actually, in most cases, can respond much better in a more personalized way than a human agent. I mean, it's not going to be better than your top agents all the time.
But
If
if
you're
your top agent's probably not available at 3 in the morning when somewhere, across the country, because I think we're getting to the point where we're past the filling out the form on my website and we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours type of thing.
yeah,
People expect something totally
yep,
different. And we're going to come back and we're going to discuss that on another episode about the importance of timely connection. And, the person that connects first is usually the one that gets the deal. So, Jason, I know you and I had discussed keeping this kind of short and concise so everybody can just take these little bites every week. Is there anything absolutely that I forgot to ask you that you want to make sure we cover on this episode, or should we come back next time?
no, I think we wrapped it up pretty well this time. Why don't you join us next time?
Very, very
We'll
cool.
continue.
We're gonna have a bunch of interesting conversations, Jason. I love your wisdom, and I appreciate you letting me ask those questions because I'm learning a lot as we go as well. So, thank you so much, everybody. We'll connect with you here on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the AI
Feel
Company.
the percussion, can't ignore. Footsteps guided by the grooves of lore. Around the planet we explore.